There's plenty of guidance that you can get on how to use LinkedIn. The bigger question is why to use LinkedIn for business.
Funnel Vision is brought to you by Math Marketing, creators of the Funnel Plan. Math Marketing is the source of the 1, 2, 3 of B2B.
There's no doubt that having your CV online is a smart thing for getting a job. So get busy. LinkedIn does a great job of that. There's also an argument to say that shouldn't we be present in as many different mediums as we possibly can be? Maybe. Every medium has its own learning curve. LinkedIn's no different. There's a good practice and bad practice in LinkedIn like there is with any channel, any tactic. So how, or more importantly, why should the time-starved amongst us, aka everybody, why should the time-starved person use LinkedIn for business? Today, I'm going to give you 6 reasons why you should. So I'm going to give you a collection of thoughts before I tie them together into a cogent conclusion. So allow me to be a little bit disconnected with a few random thoughts for the moment. The first one is just a few points on how to. There's a great article I might refer you to. In fact, let's include the link here on HubSpot on the basics of how to manage LinkedIn well. It's a great article and I'd certainly recommend it to you. I want to pull out just the first 3 points of it. It does a great job of explaining how you should set up your profile, how you should use groups. And let me just make a little note on groups. A lot of people, us included, use groups to somewhat promote their message. It's something of a one-way dialogue. A friend of mine, Rod Sloan in the UK, runs a fantastic LinkedIn group for sales and marketing alignment. Now, when Rod started running that, he didn't purport to be an expert in sales and marketing alignment, but he was certainly interested in the topic. But what he's done is he's made that forum a question-only forum. You can't post blogs or links to blogs or links to events or products there. It's for posing questions and getting answers. So he's made it really interactive. As a result, 90,000 members of that group. He's done a great job, and I think that's a real exemplar on how to run LinkedIn groups. I'd certainly recommend that you connect only with people who you actually know. There's nothing worse than finding out that somebody that you've not known and don't know has moved roles. It's irrelevant. You're irrelevant to them. The connection request from a stranger to a stranger is not a connection. If we all took that approach, then everybody would be connected to everybody, and the fact that you're connected would mean zero. I personally am not in favour of it. I am in favour of accepting or requesting a connection from everybody that I know, but only those who I know. Now I want to talk about new broom. One of the great things that come as a consequence of us all being motivated to keep our CVs up to date, which is essentially the value prop they originally had, is that we get to know when somebody's moved. And that's quite a magic moment. Imagine that the role that you typically target, somebody has just moved from that role to another company. Now the odds are very good that they've been hired by that new company to effect change. Your job now is to help them with that change. So touching base with somebody who's just moved, who you already know and with whom you're already credentialized, is a great use of LinkedIn. But likewise, when a stranger moves into a new role, in the paid version you can track certain roles in certain industries or companies, either one, and say when anybody moves into any of these roles, and you can list all the different ways of saying the same role, when anybody moves into this role from either one of these companies or from one of these industries, I want to know about it. Because whilst I don't know them and I may not use LinkedIn to contact them, I certainly want to know that somebody new has just taken a role in that strategic target. I'll reach out through some other means perhaps to argue the case for why we should meet. New brooms is a powerful use of LinkedIn. Next, I want to talk about research. The paid version lets you use some quite powerful filters to select companies or role holders. So you might select certain industries within certain geographies of a certain company size and say, show me all of my connections and show me not quite connected, so second level or third level connections. Now, I may or may not use LinkedIn to connect with them, but knowing that there is somebody who holds one of those key roles in a key company that I'd like to target, that is known to somebody who I do know, then I'm going to tap that person who I know for an introduction. Maybe I'll use LinkedIn, maybe I'll use the phone, maybe I'll use some other method, but LinkedIn lets me know that they're in that role, and that in itself is powerful research. Watching groups can be also, and participating in groups. Now, it's a fairly costly activity, and you'll do it cautiously. Early in the establishment of your business or in your career, you might be more willing to be quite active in a group. I find it very hard to be too active in too many groups. It just takes time. But participating and contributing does make sense. Again, back to the example of Rod Sloan's example. If I was a better human, I'd probably be contributing to that group as well, because it's a topic that I have some strong views and a really strong interest in. But I'm not going to do it. However, monitoring groups, you may find that the people in the groups are not the person that you want to target. And that's one of the problems. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't be watching the groups. The fact that the person who's contributing, asking the questions, posing the views in the group is the wrong person, they're potentially in the right company. And if there's one or more people from a company actively asking questions and contributing to a discussion, you know that that company has an interest in that topic. And that could well be a trigger for you to approach them with a well-researched and well-executed approach. May or may not be through LinkedIn. But through LinkedIn, you know that the company is starting to show some interest in that topic. That's a powerful use of groups. Final great use I want to table before reaching some conclusions and tying this together for you is that LinkedIn is a great positioning vehicle. Go back to my earlier point, you're only connected to people that you already know, but to those people I want to remain positioned, and I want to perhaps elevate my position as a thought leader. Now, as a thought leader and positioning with that person, I may or may not have original thought. What if you don't? What if you're genuinely just a great follower of the space, but not a contributor to the original thought? It's still a really useful positioning tactic. For you to curate, meaning collect, editorialize, select on their behalf and post really relevant content as an update or as a post on your own feed, and therefore visible to those who know you and are connected to you, you're evidencing your value to them. You may be a genuine thought leader, you may not be, but if you genuinely evidence that you have a deep understanding and interest in the subject, you're still useful. Let me make that point a little more strongly. Imagine two salespeople who are selling a highly commoditized product. Which company do I want to engage with? If one of those two companies has a salesperson who's actively evidencing that they're really watching the space and interested in the space and have shown some care in selecting content around the space, that's the one I'm going to talk to. So you can position yourself even if you're not a genuine thought leader, just by being a great curator. So what we really need to do is to work out the small number of things that we can do with LinkedIn for the maximum effect. Let's take a look at that now. I've got 6 tips, but let me break them into 3 buckets because the 6 tips fall quite neatly into 3 stages in the buyer's journey. We'll start with new names found. 3 of my recommendations are in the new names found bucket. So the first one is known movers. I already know you. The fact that you've taken a new role in a new company makes a conversation with you an interesting thing. If I'm credentialized to you and you hold a position that I want to target, you've just gone to a new company, we should talk to explore how I can help you. That's known movers. New movers, still in the new names found category. New movers, I mentioned it before, when somebody takes a role, whether you know them or not, takes a role in a company that you're interested in targeting, and they take a key role, you now know there's a new broom there and you should be contacting them to explore whether you can help them with their new role. And the third new names found recommendation is strategic research. Use the power of the filtering capability within LinkedIn to find companies within industries of a certain size, within a certain geography, and then look for certain roles, and now you've got your targets. So the next stage in the buyer's journey is positioning and category. What that means is you know me and my company as somebody who understands the space. So that again involves posting content, whether it's my own content or content that I've found on the internet that I know will be useful. Posting that content. I'd recommend when you do post, I know this is not supposed to be a how-to but a why-to, but let me make a quick recommendation. You don't do that as an update but as a post. So make a post, embed it if you can, stay within the LinkedIn medium, so embed rather than link to if you can. Embed the post, and using that as a mechanism, you're evidencing that you understand the space. Final two recommendations fall into the interest established stage in the buyer's journey. And there are two. The first one is participating in groups and watching with interest. So be an active member of 2 or 3 groups, actively contribute to the discussion helpfully. Not a product pitch, of course. I know you know that, but I have to remind you, it's not at all about your product. At all. That's for separate conversation. Genuinely adding value to a discussion in a group is a great way to position yourself. But also, of course, the content that you've been posting that positions you. But looking for people who are actively engaged in a conversation. You now know that that person in that company is actively interested in the conversation. And the final recommendation around interest established stage in the journey is selectively outreaching to people. So that would be a very carefully handcrafted message. John, I've noticed your comments in the such and such group, and it seems like you're exploring this topic, and I particularly liked your post about, mentioned something here that they've specifically mentioned. We've got some insights into that, and I'd like to share them with you offline. Would you be up for a chat? It is clearly a pitch, but it's relevant to the dialogue that you and they have been in online. That's it. 6 recommendations for the highest yield activities on LinkedIn for business. My tooltip this week is Boomerang. It's all about inbox zero. In English, having an empty inbox. There's nothing more wasteful than time that you spend glancing at your inbox to work out whether you should be giving time to some activity rather than time to the activity that's on your desk right now. The solution, of course, is to have an empty inbox, and that's easier said than done. We all know the great tips about curating, triaging, if you like, your inbox really quickly, maybe once or twice a day, and only giving time then to select of those tasks. If you can deal with it in 5 minutes, do it now. So give half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the afternoon to triage your inbox. That's normal. Sometimes though, you just can't deal with the item right away. Now you can make a to-do in whatever task list you're using, and some tasks will warrant that. What about the task that you want to give it 10 or 15 minutes? It doesn't really warrant a to-do, but you just want the idea, the email to go away for a little while, and that's where Boomerang comes in. Once you install Boomerang, you right mouse click on the email, select Boomerang from the drop-down list that comes, and select how long you want the email to go away. It immediately disappears from your inbox. Now what actually happens is it gets moved into a folder called Boomerang, and then after the allotted time it comes back into your inbox with a flag to say it needs attention. I find it a great way to get my inbox to zero when I just can't finish my triaging, or the item's going to take just a few minutes more than I can give the triaging process right now. Hope that helps.
If you enjoyed this blog, then likely you will enjoy others. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to receive this blog by visiting mathmarketing.com/blog or by visiting our YouTube channel. If you have a colleague who may be interested, we would be so grateful if you invited them to subscribe. Why don't you do that now? And when you come back, we'll show you how we do that in Funnel Plan.
As you know, Funnel Plan is a great way to capture your objectives, strategy, velocity and tactics for sales and marketing. But it's also a great way to force you to think carefully about the interconnection between tactics, and that's what's going to happen today when we look at the tactics that we just explored on that blog. Particularly, I want to zoom in and take a look at some of the existing tactics that we've got and make a point about what we need to change. So I made the argument that the tactics are going to affect finding new names, positioning in the category, and establishing their interest. Let's take a look at what we've already got here. And you can see that LinkedIn Lead Builder is already one of the tactics that we're going to use to find new names. That's the strategic research I was referring to, Lead Builder. It comes with the early paid versions of LinkedIn, but is a recommended tool to find their names. But what about new movers? We don't really have in there anybody who's moved into the role. We've got group inference research, and that is if there are members of the target company who are active in a particular group, then I'm going to imply that the company is likewise. But what we have missing is that we're not doing the new movers, somebody new into role. So let's add that in the funnel plan. So of course we're going to go into tactics, and we can see the tactics that we've already got in new names, but we're going to add in a new tactic. And we'll say we're going to track new movers into strategic targets using LinkedIn. Stage, of course, is new names found. We won't tag that for the moment. That's the new tactic added. If I go back to my PDF, I also want to add in, you see the new tactic's not been added, I haven't clicked generate yet. I also want to take a look at other tactics we've got in here. Research out new movers identified in LinkedIn. Now really, as a positioning tactic, if we're going to reach out to new movers, I want to suggest that that's actually the process that we're using to position with them, but first we've found their name. But what about the known movers? So I want to edit that tactic. It's an existing tactic. Reach out to new movers. I want to say reach out to new movers and known movers. That is connections, just to be really clear what we mean. Identified with LinkedIn. So we've just slightly modified that tactic. And again, let's go back to the funnel plan. As a positioning tactic, we also agreed that we wanted to share posts, our own and others, on LinkedIn. It turns out I've already got that. Social posting of our blog and related others. So it's already there. But there's one other thing that's missing I'll quickly point out now. Reach out to new movers. Where do they go after that? And that's the point I made at the top of this little section of the show. I wanted to point out that you need to think about what's next and next and next. Well, in the case of new movers or known movers, I want to make a handcrafted outreach to them to argue why we should meet. Well, I've already blogged on that recently, and that's the video VBR. So all I'm really going to need to do is to connect that outreach to the video VBR. Let's do that now. Go to Tactics and Connections, and we're going to add in a connection. Okay, so we want to go from a tactic that we've already got in the positioned in category section, which is reach out to new movers, and I want to connect that to video VBR. Let's add that as a connection. I'll quickly make sure that my tactics are in the order that I want them, and then I'll reproduce the PDF. And we'll take a look at reorder tactics. I just want to make sure that the new tactics that I've added are in the right order. So here it is, the track new movers. Now we want that to be one of the ways that we do research. So let's bring it down here, right next to the LinkedIn Lead Builder. In next week's show, we're going to look at pain funnel questions. The killer questions that you should ask prospects who are just outside your funnel to get them in your funnel, because you'll bring to the surface issues that they may not be focusing on right now, but should be. Until then, may your funnel be full and always flowing.